Barbers of Reddit, what was your, oh shit, moment?
My coworker at a salon was cutting a girl's hair and found lice. The girl's mom had left her for the trim and she had to wait for her mom in the lobby. We spent the next hour or so frantically cleaning around all of the other clients and stylists to sanitize the whole place top to bottom. When the mom came back and asked her why she didn't have her hair cut, she replied, "They found out. WHO brings their lice-ridden child to the salon."
My dad let me line myself up once. Fucked up. Decided to cut the whole thing off and go bald. The plus side to being black is that 99% of the time being bald looks fine. I guess I was part of the 1% that looks like a fucking Whopper malt ball.
Why did I read this thread before lunch, damn it. Poor Gary though, rest his soul. My mom was cutting my hair when I was younger, around 2nd grade. She was only using the razor at one point without the thing that makes it a certain length towards the end. A piece of hair fell on my nose and made me sneeze, my head moved, and I ended up with a bald spot. I ended up having to get shaved completely bald to fix it, and she refused to give haircuts after that except for one time during COVID.
The barber my dad took us kids to growing up kept a plastic ear in a big glass jar of water. Told all the little kids jokingly that it was the ear of a little boy who wouldn't be still when getting a haircut, and he accidentally cut this kid's ear off. Said he was keeping it in formaldehyde to remind us all to be very still. It largely had the desired effect on the younger kids. Edit. Spelling. My entire life. My last name is Barber. Not a barber, but my cousin worked in a salon when I was a kid and I would hang out there a lot after school. One day she cut a guy's head pretty bad with the clippers. Lots of blood, but it wasn't too serious. This led to them dating and eventually getting married.
Not me, but my mom, who is a hairdresser. Did you know that some hair dye chemicals don't play well together? Turns out the lady had used some sort of home hair dye chemical that basically has tiny bits of metal in it. She didn't mention. My mom goes to dye her hair and puts the professional dye on it, and the hair more or less starts melting as the dye reacts. Her hair was totally ruined, there was no saving it. Only thing to do was to just get the new dye off as fast as possible. She was pretty understanding about the whole situation though.
My aunt was a barber in the 70s. One day during her shift a man came in and asked for a trim. During the cut he just offed himself. My aunt got a bit of brain in her mouth.
When I suddenly have a heart attack before finishing my client's cut. Kid, 17, weight ha bunch of acne. Like total pizza face and neck, wanted a straight razor shave on the back of his neck and neck. Sliced off a bunch of pimples that bleed for like 10 minutes. Really gross.
I'm not a barber, but one time my mum cut my ear with the hair clippers and she freaked out whilst I was sat there wondering what the hell was going on until she shouted, "Get a tissue, we have blood loss, XD.
Not a barber, but when I was waiting for my turn to get cut, one of the barbers stopped cutting another guy and ran to the toilet. Guess it was literally an, oh shit, moment. I got seated with another barber thankfully.
I was in school still at the time and was cutting this guy's hair. He brought his girlfriend along and she was watching like a hawk over me. I'm halfway through the cut and almost done with the fade when the person next to me has their trolley too close to me, so I go to move it, but I didn't pay attention that my other hand had the clipper still running with no guard on. I made a nasty line through the fade that didn't look intentional at all and was sweating my ass off on how I was gonna fix this. The girlfriend of course points it out and the client is actually super chill about it and has me basically just run a super high 0.5 on the sides and back. 3 years later and to this day I haven't had an incident that bad.
When I was a kid, the hairdresser nicked my brother's ear and it bled a bit. I'm pretty sure that was an oh shit moment for her. My brother didn't even care.
When I was a little kid and hid under the table with a pair of scissors to cut my own bangs. My mom screamed when she saw my work. I remember doing it by feel, didn't even have a mirror, but I don't remember how it looked. Ironically, a few years later my mom tried to trim my bangs and she did a horrible job. I had to wear a hat for a while.
Lol. COVID cutting my husband hair and had an oh shit moment. Just told him to wear a hat in public for a while.
Brother of a barber who used to be a hair model? Back when I used to have a good head of hair. His instructor told a story during one of the shows about a mobster falling asleep during a shave. While shaving him, he accidentally cut off a mole. He said he kept on putting towels on him and then snuck across the street and hid in a bar watching through the window until the mobster left. Since he was only renting the chair in the shop, he grabbed all his stuff and found another place to work after he was sure the mobster was gone.
So, basically I really wanted to meet this local judge who was like a real high flyer in the community. I managed to invite him to my barbershop for a free haircut, and one day, out of nowhere, he just turned up for a trim. I was like, oh shit, internally obviously, and murdered him and had my neighbor bake him into a pie. I was the client in this situation. My hairstylist was doing a usual cut on me, and when she was cutting around one of my ears, her scissors caught onto the top inch or so of the cartilage, like, the actual top part of the ear. She kept cutting harder and harder trying to get this thick hair knot cut. It took me saying, ow, for her to realize she was cutting my ear. No blood, no cut, just a really bendy ear. She was distracted talking to my mom, since I was in like middle school at the time. She never stops saying it every time I get my hair done. Hasn't happened since, either.
Licensed cosmetologist here. During my very first men's haircut when I was in school, I accidentally cut this guy's skin tag off. I was absolutely horrified, but he was super nice about it and was genuinely stoked. He only had to pay $5 plus a tip to get it removed. That's the only real, oh shit, moment that's been my fault that I can think of. I've had plenty, if not too many, what the fuck, moments though. I've had people, shit and piss vomit come in with cum, shit, mold, blood and other fun fluids in their hair, be high or drunk out of their minds, get violent with me, sexually harass, assault me and more in my chair. Please be nice to the person who does your hair. We go through too much to make y'all look nice.
When I was like 5, I decided to steal the kitchen scissors, give myself a haircut, and then hide the hair in a toy purse. Once I realized what I looked like, I went up to my mom and told her I needed to go get another haircut. You can imagine her reaction.
Not a hairdresser. I've had cartilage piercings pulled out by a hairdresser's comb before. It happened at 2 different haircuts, so now I warn hairdressers and take out the earrings. It doesn't hurt, but people kinda panic a little if it happens.
Checks to see if my aunt posted about cutting part of my ear off.
One time I was doing clipper over comb to blend a client's haircut, and I sneezed unexpectedly. I made a hole on the side of his head. I turned him around and tried to blend it in the best I could, but the damage was done. Sad face.
Not barber was getting a haircut at a military barber. I wanted generic crew cut 1 inch top, ½ inch sides. Barber guy thought I liked my long ass quarantine hair and did 2 inches top, 1 inch side instead. Just in case, I liked it better longer. I checked CUS. I trust barber man's opinion on hair a bit. Too long, I looked like Hitler. Asked for the original. Anyways, between the 2 inch to 1 inch conversion, I heard him mutter, Jesus Christ. I break out into a cold sweat, but I couldn't find anything wrong with the cut after it ended. But seriously, my guy, don't mutter the things. Not a barber, but within the first 2 weeks of COVID lockdowns, my boredom mixed with ADHD impulses brought me to think shaving my whole head was a good idea. I also convinced my brother to do it with me, cause why not? For him, okay. For me, big mistake. Firstly, I do not have the best hairline, which I underestimated because once the top was gone, that shit was pulling graph functions on my forehead. Fucking Y equals you fucked up head ass. I should also mention I am very skinny. So mix the shaved head with that and I looked like I was on chemo. In conclusion, good learning experience, but never again.
Legit, the post right above this one.
One time when I was a kid, my mum walked into a barber's with me and asked the barber to give me a muffet, long sides and fringe, shaved back, bald cap with a long tuft in the middle. Barber's jaw dropped and she just sort of stood there trying to process what the fuck had just happened.
My mum was cutting my hair 3 days before my grade 6 graduation and forgot to put the guide for the clippers on. Had a bald stripe on the back of my head for grad. Will never forgive.
Not a professional, but I have 2 stories that somewhat relate to each other. When I was in high school, my mom would try to save some money by cutting my hair herself. When she was about to finish, she saw a part she needed to fix and grabbed the clippers, forgetting she already took off the guard, and gave me a bald spot at my hairline at the top of my forehead. Shit was traumatic. Fast forward 9 years to about 5 months ago. COVID is in full swing, people can't really get haircuts from barbers. A friend of mine needed a haircut, and she was willing to trust me. Basically all she wanted was the sides to be cut at a 3. I told her my incident with my mom cutting my hair, and that I would never let that happen to her. Then I noticed the guard on the counter and I started crying.
I know one barber had an, oh shit, moment when he cut my brother's ear. Head stuff can bleed a fair bit. I cut off a guy's ear.
I went to a barber shop where the barbers spoke very little English and somehow there was some sort of communication error between us and he ended up shaving my sideburns up to the top of my ear. Ah!
That time the head barber died mid-trim and the customer asked me to finish the cut after about 2 minutes.
I don't know how to quote the original post, don't think I can on mobile. But, bro, I looked like thumb, had me dead. I'm glad I didn't read what everyone is saying they wish they unread. I always scroll to the middle of a thread and then I read. Thanks guys. Now I'm leaving.
I am from Argentina and as far as I know, we are from the countries that have been in quarantine for the longest time. Guess who didn't cut his hair? Winking face.
My mum used to be a hairdresser back before she had kids, and her coworker told her about a client she had once that had really matted and unkept dreadlocks. When she started getting through and chopping the guy's hair, as he requested, she found a red back spider, black widow, just sitting in a part of his hair.
When my brother got his first haircut in a barber shop, he of course was a bit nervous as he never had his haircut before. My mom assured him that it would be okay and that it wasn't painful. The barber accidentally cut off my brother's earlobe. So that was a real, oh shit, moment for all parties I think. When they need to shit. Not a barber, but my best mate and I went to a wedding a few years ago and in between the ceremony and reception we had 6 hours to kill and decided to get a haircut to look good for the reception. It was a hot summer's afternoon. We were next to each other in the chair and the barber cuts her finger almost off while she's cutting my mate's hair. The tip is dangling and blood spurting everywhere. My mate is screaming and the barber is freaking out. He's got someone else's blood on his head and I'm sitting there watching saying, oh shit. We leave with half-finished haircuts and without paying as they rushed us out to close and to tend to the barber. We go to the recreant, have a great time.
I had a heart attack halfway through my client's haircut.
My mother is a barber. She was tasked with cutting my husband's hair for our wedding. The guard comb thing that goes on electric razor popped off while she was enthusiastically talking to me. She accidentally buzzed a 0 on the back of his head. A 0 is the shortest you can cut the hair without it being bald, I believe. We never told him and no pictures were taken of the back of his head. If I can help it, I'll be taking this to my grave. If not, he'll forgive me but I'll feel bad still. Hairdresser of 12 years. I once was combing a young girl's hair that had just got her cartilage pierced a few days prior. Sure enough, I snag it with the comb and rip the barbell straight through her ear. I went physically weak at the knees and cried a bit. It bled a ton. But she was and is the kindest client I've ever had. She refused to not pay me, and never told any of her family, whom are my clients as well, what happened. Still cringe at this moment to this day.
When I cut hair and the guy starts monotone moving with his hand under the coat to pleasure himself.
I'm not a barber but my mother is a hairdresser, and when I was 15 I attempted to cut my own hair using her salon scissors. Nearly a decade later I still have a long scar on my neck from where I came close to slicing open my own jugular instead of my very unfortunate mullet. When I felt the heart attack coming on. I'm not a barber, this is a meta joke. Super late to the party, ex-hairdresser. I still gag when I think about the time I cut someone's massive mole off of their ear, ears bleed a lot. I was done the whole haircut and was cleaning up the edges and I felt the resistance in my scissors during the cut. It was absolutely brutal. I've never felt so awful in my entire life. If you're reading this, I'm still sorry. 10 years later.
I went to the man shop for a cut and a shave. The girl cut my upper lip open and it bled everywhere and took literally hours to stop fully with direct pressure. Didn't even get an oops, sorry out of them.